Are you practicing Maat correctly? Etibu fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric and in this video I want to go ahead and address a couple of questions that have been posed to me. I get these emails, I get these, some of these questions that come up in the comment section and everything. And that question is, am I practicing Kemetic spirituality correctly? Am I practicing Maat correctly? And I always say this, okay? And I've always stated this on my, on this channel. I am not the authority on this, okay? I went ahead and I posted a video, or I should say we posted a video on can everybody practice Kemetic spirituality? And the responses I got back was it was great, but some of those questions that came, some of the responses, some of the comments and everything that were directed towards me was, it was kind of some hate mail, but I keep saying, I don't make the rules to this, okay? I do not consider myself to be the authority on this. I can't tell you what's right and what's wrong. And the reason why I can't tell you what's right or what's wrong, or if you're doing it correctly or if you're not doing it correctly, is because you're not living for me. Understand this, okay? You're living for yourself. Everybody, if you're in Kemetic spirituality, and if you're dealing with someone who's actually introduced you to this and they've told you the right way, okay? I'm not knocking anybody or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm just saying, if you're dealing with somebody who's going ahead and they're being on the up and up, then they would have told you, they should have informed you. Everybody has to find Maat for themselves, okay? Everybody has to find Maat for themselves, right? So that's the reason why I can't, I'm not trying to be court. I'm not trying to be, I try to be, I'm tactful and in my responses. But I'm not trying to go ahead and be, because I've gone ahead and I've told people certain things, and I can see that they kind of ruffled their feathers the wrong way. But I'm trying to be straight up with you, all right? I'm trying to be on the up and up and let you know what my eye really deals with, okay? A lot of people are under the impression that my eye is, and let's start over. Let's start over, okay? And so that you can understand where this is really coming from. And I've mentioned this before. When this channel first started off and we first started doing videos, we went ahead and we were doing videos on, I think we did our first few videos, we dealt with Kemetic spirituality and dealt with Maat, okay? And I remember saying, okay, part of the reason why you can't, it's hard to practice Kemetic spirituality. Not saying it's difficult or it's impossible, but part of the reason why it's hard to understand what Kemetic spirituality is and practice Kemetic spirituality is because, as I've mentioned before, the Kemetic people, they lived thousands of years ago, okay? So basically, most of the information we get about the Kemetic spirituality, their religion, their tradition, their way of life, is based upon someone else's perspective, okay? Now, I remember the first time I said that, there were so many, so many people when they hear him was like, that makes no sense, blah, 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 got a couple of hate mail and everything, but, it's like, hey, okay, well, it is what it is, all right? But I went a little bit further, and I'm going a little bit further to try to give you a different perspective of this so that you kind of understand this. Most of us do not understand Kemetic spirituality. And the reason why we have to go through this book way of doing things is because, first of all, the Kemetic people, majority of them were agriculturalists. Okay? Majority of them, or think of it this way, majority of them, the majority of the society were farmers. Okay? Most of us don't know anything about farming. Okay? I mean, you see, I got a plant behind me that my wife has, and the plant keeps talking to me. It keeps talking to me saying she didn't water me. Okay? And that's how most people are. We're not in tune with nature. Okay? So as a result, when it comes to Kemetic spirituality, that's the one main difference. All right? The Kemetic people depended upon nature. Okay? They depended upon the annual flooding of the Nile. They depended upon, the sun to shine, the rising of the Nile, the land to be fertile. They depended upon that. Okay? Compare that to us living today. We all live by technology. Okay? Most of us still, unfortunately, to go to show you how out of sync we are with nature. Most of us use an alarm clock to get up. Okay? We don't get up naturally because the sun rises. All right? We feel the sun rising, so okay, let me go ahead, let me get up at this time. All right? We're out of sync. There's the imbalance. So because of that imbalance, because of that effect, all right, this is what makes it a little difficult to understand what Kemetic spirituality is, and it makes it difficult for us to really understand who we are. Okay? Again, not impossible, but this is the challenge that we hold. Okay? This is the challenge. When we come out the starting blocks, these are the challenges that we have to face before we even deal with the real of the Kemetic spirituality, the nuts and bolts of Kemetic spirituality. Okay? This is what we got to deal with. All right? So this is the reason why when we're talking about Maat, all right, according to the book of Knowing the Manifestations of Ra and Overcoming the Pep, okay, when you're approaching it from this perspective, all right, nature begins by saying, all right, I brought myself out of the state of Nu. Okay, I brought myself out of in you, and after I brought myself, I spoke myself into existence. Finding no place to stand, I went ahead and I caused the Ma'ah to come out of in you. From that, okay, Shu and Tef Nu were basically came into existence. Okay, I went ahead and I sped out Shu and I emitted Tef Nu. Okay. When you start to understand this, and you start to understand there's an orderly process of doing things, okay? Nothing just happens by coincidence. Nothing happens by happenstance. When you start to go ahead and you really understand that this is a creation process that we all go through, okay? When you make that connection, that's when they start getting understanding what my deals with. Okay? The 42 laws or 42 principles, okay, that people call the 42 laws of Ma'at, the 42 principles of Ma'at, is not the Ma'at. This is the Ma'at. These were 42 principles for the scribe Ani. Okay? They were not, everybody did not live according to the 42 principles of Ma'at or let me put it like this. They lived according to the 42 principles of Ma'at, but they were not written down as the 42 principles of Ma'at like the 10 Commandments. Okay? We're reading someone else's interpretation of what the Ma'a is, because everybody has to find the Ma'a for themselves. Everybody has to know. You got to know truth for yourself. You got to know balance and order and reciprocity for yourself. Okay? This is what you have to understand. This is the reason why I can't judge you. Hear me correctly. This is Kemetic spirituality talking. This is Kemetic spirituality experience. I cannot judge you. I'm not judging you. Okay? That's why I can't tell you what's right and what's wrong. Okay? Now I know I know what you're saying. I know how you're thinking. I hear you. You're saying, okay, well then, if that is the case, how do I go ahead and make that? How do I live that? How do I put that in balance? How do I put that in perspective? Okay, and it is a challenge. Like I said, it's a hard thing to do, especially because we're in a Western society. Okay, and this is how I put it in balance for myself. This is how I found Ma'a for myself. After I went ahead and I started to understand the Ma'a's perspective, or let me say the role of Ma'a in the creation of everything. Okay, hear my words correctly. After I started to understand, and I'm saying understand from an intellectual perspective, okay, and from an intellectual perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective, okay, comprehension as well, okay, conceptual. After I went ahead and I started to understand the role of Ma'a, okay, and this understanding came from, part of it came from living with farmers, not living out there, in a farm or so, but living with farmers and seeing them actually depend upon nature. Okay, may I sure hope it rains. I sure hope it stops raining. I sure hope this grass grows, this wheat grows, this corn grows. I sure hope this. Oh, it's too much of this. Oh, it's too much. It's not enough of this. After going ahead and like I said, understanding what my eye dealt with, and then getting in tune with nature, that's when I began to realize everything. There's a balance. There's an order to everything. Okay? And when I realized there's an order and a balance that exists in everything, regardless of what this Western world tells us, when I made that connection, that's when I began to notice something. If you're doing things from a Ma'a perspective, you get the desired results you want. If you're not doing things from a Ma'a perspective, if you are imbalanced, you keep getting imbalance. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? If you're living according to Ma'a and it's imbalance, okay, you're living according to Ma'a, you're in alignment with the Ma'a, all right, then you will get the desired results. If you're not living according to Ma'a, or if you're living Isfet, you will continue to get imbalances. Okay? Now, once I went ahead and I understood that, once I kept that in mind, that's when my health got better. Okay? Because I started noticing, oh, I can't eat this. I can't I can't eat this. I need to go to bed earlier. I need more sleep. I need to exercise. I need to do certain things. Oh, I'm doing too much of this. I'm eating too much of this. Okay? Ma'at is speaking. The spirits of Ma'at are speaking. Okay? Now, part of the reason why, like I said, the main reason why a lot of us we miss this, and when it comes to understanding Ma'at and everything, a lot of the reasons why, and I'm guilty of it. I was guilty of it once upon a time as well. But part of the reason why we miss it is because we are under the impression that Ma'at is just, we know that the Ten Commandments is been derived from the 42 principles of Ma'at. We know that, okay? But we are under the impression that Ma'at just basically deals with ethics and morality, okay? And that's not the case, all right? That's part of it, but that's not the case, all right? I'll give you an example of what I came across, what helped me. One of the things that helped me to understand this, okay? You can't offend God. Think about that. Think about that in comparison to the Ten Commandments. All right? You can't offend God. You can't offend nature, the nature of everything. How can you hurt nature's feelings? All right? You can cause imbalance, right? You can, your actions and behaviors can harm another. They can go ahead and they can harm another living, someone who's in the living. You can harm you can upset your spirits. You can upset, your ancestors. But you can't, the Lord Almighty, okay, the never chair, the creator of all things, all right, the supreme being, you can't hurt the supreme being. So once you go ahead, once I went ahead and I made that understanding, I made that connection, to me, I know people will say, well, okay, I went ahead and I read the 42 laws of Ma'at, and the 42 laws of Ma'at, they deal with the 42 gods. But to me, that's not how it came across. To me, the way it came across was those 42 gods are actually the 42 or my 42 ancestors. Okay? That's what came across to me. Those are my ancestors. And this is what I've been telling other people. Those are your ancestors you have to stand up against. Okay? This coincides with other traditional African cosmology and thinking. It's your ancestors. What does me standing before a God that I don't know means nothing to me. Okay? It's not going to, I'm not going to cower because of that. I'm not going to feel, either way or either way because of it being a quote unquote God. But when you put it in perspective and you think of them as those are your ancestors that you're standing in front of, different perspective. The same way, if you went ahead and you go to court, your loved ones, they show up in court with you, okay? It's the same way that happens in the spirit realm, all right? It is your ancestors, your family, your relatives, your loved ones, those who were there for you, that show up in the spiritual court, the halls of Ma'at, with you, okay? This is what I'm telling you, people. Fam, this is about balance. This is about going ahead, things being done in an orderly manner, okay? This is the reason why you have to have this. In order to really get into this Kemetic spirituality, you really, really have to have you got to be working with your ancestors. From my perspective, from my experience, You got to be working with your ancestors. You got to be working with your spirit guides who are going to give you more insight about this. Okay? Now, to practice Kemetic spirituality, to practice Ma'at, all right? How do you do this? One of the things that I find that you have to do is, first of all, you got to come with an open mind. This is kind of hard again, hard to do because of the way in which we have been brought up in the West, all right? Part of the reason why, again, some people are having so many problems when it comes to, and you're asking, am I doing this correctly? Part of the reason why you're having those problems is because you've come from the church, you've come from the temple, the kingdom hall, the mosque. You have these you have these preconceived ideas that this is what Ma is. So you're superimposing this onto what Kemetic spirituality is. All right? And that's like I said, is based upon your results. Are you getting those results? Okay? By the way, I'm being told, I'm being, shown that I got to tell you this. How do I know? How do I know that those 42 gods, okay, are my ancestors? Well, what's my results? That's how I looked at it. What's my results? When I went ahead and I stopped looking at them as being 42 gods and started understanding those are 42 ancestral spirits. Those are 42, those are my ancestral spirits, my spirit guides. My understanding got better. My life got better in regards to dealing with my ancestors, in regards to dealing with my spirit guides. Because now I know this is who I'm standing up against. Or not standing up against, but this is who, when it comes to, did you do right? Did you do wrong? This is who's going to be there at that court or at that, the halls of Ma'at in the afterlife. This is where I'm going to be judged at. This is where my conscience is going to be. Did you do the right thing when you should have done the right thing? Okay. Versus, did I do it because this is what it said to do? Okay? This is where we're being judged at. All right? So, like I said, understand, in order for you to go ahead and have this, you want to go ahead, you want to know if you're practicing Kemetic spirituality correctly, or you want to know if you're practicing the Ma'at correctly. All right? The way to go ahead and cross that bridge, you got to start looking at it from the perspective that gods and goddesses look at it from. Okay? Our universe is composed of two realities. There's a physical and a spiritual reality. Okay? Most of us, we're familiar with the physical reality. It's very hard for us to go ahead and get into the spiritual part of it because it's invisible, all right? And that spiritual reality is what also contributes to the whole of life, all right? When you finally go ahead, when you get this, you don't have to ask anyone if you're doing something right, okay? I mentioned before, all right, when I talked about does everybody or can everybody practice Kemetic spirituality, this is what I was saying. It's your ancestors that's going to go ahead and they're going to be in your corner. If you think what you're doing is right, keyword, think. If you think what you're doing is right, you think whatever choices you've made, whatever choices you made with your actions, your behaviors, if you think is right, you shouldn't have to ask anybody. You shouldn't have to ask me anything. You shouldn't have to ask anyone if you're doing it right or what you're doing is correct or not. If it's in according or in alignment with my, shouldn't have to ask that. Okay? Your ancestors will go here and they'll let you know. Your ancestors, your spirit guides, they will let you know because you will get the results that you desire. But if you ain't getting the results, if you ain't getting the desired results, you're not getting the desired effect, okay? Cause and effect. Here we're talking about Ma'at. If you're not getting the desired result and the desired effects, then you check yourself. All right? Understand, Kemetic spirituality is not about salvation. This is not Christianity, where you got to go save yourself. Yes, you have to save yourself, okay? But it's not about salvation from a Christian perspective. It's about balance. It's about ma'at, all right? And when you go ahead and you really get into, like I said, again, my opinion, when you really get into ma'at, when you really start to understand who ma'at is, this is when you meet the personification of ma'at. This is when you see the spirits and you meet the spirits of ma'at, okay? Because you're seeing things from a physical and spiritual perspective. Give you an example here, an example of what I mean by that real quick. So like last week, we went ahead and we did a video talking about spiritual cleansings, okay? And there's a certain way after, did the video, there's a certain way I went ahead and I put all those spiritual colognes and spiritual waters, certain way I go ahead and I stack them, okay? Well, I went ahead and I went back in and, I saw they're all on the floor, okay? Not all of them, but there were certain bottles that was on the floor, okay? Now, if I wasn't dealing with and did not understand and did not know, and keep in mind that everything happens for a reason, there is no such thing as accidents, okay? If I went ahead and looked at it from a Western perspective, something just went ahead and just fell, I would have picked them back up and that was it. Never thought about it. But because I know that everything happens for a reason, okay? And everything there are no accidents. There are no coincidences. I looked at the bottles that went ahead and fell, and I knew automatically, okay, y'all are telling me something. This is something coming from the other side. You're telling me something. I didn't see the cause of why it fell. I'm looking at the effect. I'm looking at the other side, the effect of why it happened. So as soon as I go in here and I see the bottles and I went in here and I looked, okay, the spirits need a sprinkling of this. We need to spray, we need to put down some of these waters, okay? Because you're seeing it from, and this is the holistic perspective. This is ma'at, okay? These are the spirits of ma'at that are going ahead and showing you certain things, okay? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that brings a little bit more clarity to what you're dealing with. Like I said, we have to get past the intellectual side, okay? Knowing about Ma'at and knowing about the 42 laws of Ma'at and all that, great, okay? But that's not Ma'at. That is not going to help you. It's a great guide, okay? The 42 laws of Ma'at, understand, they are a great guide to understanding Ma'at and finding Ma'at for yourself. But you got to find Ma'at for yourself. You have to know Ma'at for yourself, okay? When it comes the day of judgment, they're not going to ask, did you follow the 42 laws of Ma'at? They're going to ask, did you do the right thing when you knew it was the right thing? Did you do right when the opportunity came for you to live and do right? That's what Ma'at is about, okay? And that's where you get your real, true spiritual power. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to drop me a line. Again, thanks. Head to Pooh. Peace.